City mayor of all time is Fiorello LaGuardia.
Mr. Cuomo.
It was Bill de Blasio last debate.
No, I've always said Fiorello is the best mayor of all time.
Who's yours, Mr. Cuomo?
Is it of all time or modern time?
Best New York City mayor in Europe.
Of all time, it is Fiorello LaGuardia.
We agree.
Recently, I would say Mayor Dinkins and Mayor Bloomberg.
Okay. How about the political leader, dead or alive, you most admire? Mr. Mamdani?
I would say I admire Bernie Sanders.
Mr. Cuomo?
My father.
Mr. Sliwa?
I said it already, George Pataki, who was
Pataki.
loved by Democrats and Republicans and the greatest mayor in our lifetime.
All right.
The greatest governor in our
I just
lifetime.
have one more before Sally starts to ask you about schools. A show of hands. Who supports Kathy Hochul for re-election?
It's a decision that should be made after this general election.
So no decision. Mr. Cuomo, you handpicked her as your lieutenant governor. No thought?
You have to know who's running.
Yeah. Okay, so
And I would add that I do think that Kathy Hochul, our governor, has been doing a good job in not only
Do you
serving
support her
and
for re-election?
delivering, not only delivering for New Yorkers, but also standing up to Donald Trump.
just what, do you support her for re-election?
Then endorse her.
I'm focusing on November.
Why don't you
And I
endorse her?
appreciate her support
All right,
and I
thanks,
appreciate her
candidates.
work.
But you
Thanks,
don't endorse
candidates.
her.
How about a shout out
All
for
right,
Lee
we're gonna
Stefanik
turn
to
to-
take out Kathy Hochul?
No.
So you have a
Okay.
Republican
All right.
Mayor Curtis,
All right.
a Republican Governor
Thank you, gentlemen.
Stefanik,
Thank you.
like Giuliani
We want to
and
talk about
Pataki, who
schools.
saved this city.
We want to
and
talk about
state.
schools. Sally?
Okay, thank you, David. Let's turn to education. There are a number of issues facing public schools. One that's been controversial in the campaign is the Gifted and Talented program, which offers accelerated instruction to elementary school children. Mr. Mamdani, you have said that you want to phase out the Gifted and Talented program, while Mr. Cuomo and Mr. Sliwa want to expand it. Mr. Sliwa, we will start with you. What is your plan for the program? You have 1 minute.
Gifted and talented.
Yes, Gifted and Talented.
I have two younger sons with Melinda Katz, the Queens DA. They both attempted to get into Gifted and Talented as 4-year-olds. They failed. It did not present a problem with their future education. We don't have enough slots. Right now, they're 1,900. We need to have at least 5,000 slots around the city. What they have not done at the Department of Education is make these tests available in Black and Hispanic communities. So, for instance, you have 77,000 children who are 4 years old. Only 10,000 have taken the test. Only 2,000 are accepted. Why not offer the test to all 77,000? And even if a gifted and talented class only has 3 or 4 in a minority school, give these children an opportunity to excel too. That would make it fair for everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, how does your plan differ from Mr. Sliwa's? You also have 1 minute.
First, I support mayoral control. I think it would be a terrible mistake to roll back mayoral control. That's probably been the most dramatic educational reform in 40 years. We'd go back to the old system that had local school boards, which were corrupt, patronage mills, et cetera. So who runs the system is number one. I would expand gifted and talented programs, accessibility. I'd offer preparatory courses to any student, parent that wanted to take them. I'd double the number of specialized high schools from 9 to 18. And I would keep the SAT as it is.
Thank you. And Mr. Mamdani.
Can I add one thing? There's been no discussion about vocational high schools,
Okay,
which save so many young men and women.
Sorry, this is the
we need to expand vocational training for those who are not going to achieve
we're
academic
going to keep going here with Mr.
excellence.
Mamdani. Why should the Gifted and Talented program be phased out, in your opinion? You have a minute to answer.
So I want to be very clear. I have spoken solely of gifted and talented for kindergartners. I do not believe that kindergartners should be subject to a singular assessment. I have not spoken of any gifted and talented programs older than for kindergarten. I'm solely speaking about kindergarten. And I believe that we should be delivering the best education across the country here in this city. We will do that by following through on the proposals I've put forward to hire 1,000 more teachers every single year through our Community to Classroom program, one that will ensure that we're providing each student, whether they be in high school or someone who is an adult looking to become a teacher, with $12,000 in tuition subsidies so that they can start to fulfill the 7,000 to 9,000 additional teachers we need so that we can actually deliver on the Class Size Reduction Act, which I was proud to pass in Albany, that will ensure that children and teachers actually have a manageable ratio in that classroom so that they can learn. Because today, that learning is being rendered impossible by the number of kids in that same classroom. It's time to make sure that that number is lower.
Thanks.
But you don't
Gentlemen,
believe the mayor should run this system?
I've been critical of mayoral control because of the ways in which it's been used to take away the voice of parents, of educators, of students. And I think it's important that those same voices be a part of how we lead the system.
So are you for or against mayoral control?
I've been critical of it. I'm against mayoral control, and I think that there's an importance of developing something that actually enshrines all of those voices together.
Mr. Cuomo, you also tried to curtail it when Mayor de Blasio was mayor. But
I'm
you
sorry?
can go.
Did you hear what she said?
No.
I was saying you proposed a curtailment of mayoral control when Mayor de Blasio was mayor during
There's been
negotiations.
multiple modifications of mayoral control over
But
the
some,
years.
some proposed curtailment at your hand. So if you are such a champion of it tonight,
No,
I think it's worth pointing
I never
out.
proposed reversing mayoral control.
No, shortening the duration of time he would have control of schools.
Yes, for renewal. The renewal
Mr. Mamdani,
period.
how much
Counter
control
to
of
what
schools,
you're
Mr. Mamdani, how much control of schools would you be giving up? Is it just a sharing arrangement? I know you want to share with the districts and with parents, or would you be giving up full control? And is that an accountability problem if the buck doesn't stop with you?
I think the mayor needs to retain the accountability so that New Yorkers know exactly who they can come to when they have critiques. And I think we also have to develop a system where we don't have what we saw just recently, where you have hours and hours of parents and teachers and
Okay.
students testifying only to be overruled without any
Okay.
consideration by the panel on
Thank you,
education.
Mr.
That's
Mamdani. I have
called
to move
mayoral
on.
control.
Switching now, it's a question for all three of you. Switching to students with learning challenges. Parents of students with dyslexia, ADHD, and autism are very well aware the fact that the school system in New York City is not doing enough to meet their children's educational needs. How will you help these parents and students? We know that Mayor Adams has expanded evaluations specifically for children with dyslexia. It was an issue close to his heart, but what would you do more broadly, Mr. Mamdani?
You know, I think some of the initiatives that Mayor Adams has launched, especially with this chancellor, have been showing positive signs, especially for literacy and for preparedness, especially as we're in a national crisis on reading and mathematical comprehension. And I think those are programs that should be furthered, should be invested in, all while also ensuring that we're giving teachers greater flexibility in the curriculum that they're actually teaching. Because what I've heard from many of those teachers is that too often the curriculum that's being procured in the $10 billion a year in DOE contracts is one that has little relation to the
Thank you,
classroom.
Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Sliwa, you have 30 seconds.
Yes. We have $41,000 that we're spending on each student now. By fourth grade, 2/3 of these children cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. We should be ashamed of ourselves for that. 100,000 less students than we had last year. 1/3 are truants. We have 200 schools with 200 students or less, and Michael Mulgrew determines which schools stay open. Eric Adams is not exhibiting mayoral control. The mayor should run the Board of Education, the old Board of Education that is now the Department of Education. The bureaucracy.
Time, Mr.
You have 13
Sliwa.
deputy chancellors. You have 50 department
I had
heads
asked
that
about-
suck up all the money,
I was
and
asking
teachers
about
are still
students
reaching
with
into their
learning
pockets
differences. I'm gonna move on
badly
to
needed
Mr.
supplies
Cuomo.
for the children in the class. The money should be going to the
Mr. Sliwa,
teachers
thank you.
and the
Okay.
children and young adults, and it's not.
Mr. Cuomo, what is your specific plan to deal with the challenges of students who have learning differences?
We are losing young families. When the child becomes of school age, they leave the city, they go to the suburbs, they go to New Jersey. They're not going to sacrifice their child on what they think is the secondary education system. The core competency, reading and math, below 50% is a disgrace. The gifted and talented programs gives people hope. I do believe Mayor Adams has made progress on the evaluations and services for children who require special needs and assistance, but obviously we have to do more.
So we have another question about improving schools. And in the last year, the schools enrolled more than 36,000 migrant students, many learning English for the first time. From class size to bilingual teachers, that puts a big strain in the system. Mr. Cuomo, what can you do to help migrant students, but also the staff? You have 30 seconds.
Well, first, I think it was wrong of the state to put so many migrants in New York City. New York City had the overwhelming majority of migrants.
But they're already here.
Close to about 80%. The state should have put them all across the state, Nassau, Suffolk, upstate, so other governments could have also.
Well, they were bused here from Texas,
And
right?
we have a
Yes,
situation
but if
right
they're
now.
bused
They're
from
here.
Texas, you could have brought some to Nassau, 20 miles,
Yeah, but they're here right now,
Westchester.
and we're asking about the current problem.
Yes, well, that's how the problem was created.
Okay, we understand
The
that.
state put them here, the state gave the city the bill. It has now increased the challenge in our education system. The state is going to have to help financially.
So you didn't answer the question, Mr. Mamdani, is your chance.
You know, when I spoke about our community to classroom program, the importance of it is not just bringing in 1,000 more teachers every year. It's also that we would bring in a number of more bilingual educators. Because what we've heard from a number of adults who have taught in other countries, now live in New York City, is the process by which they get their certification approved to teach here is one that is onerous and one that is actually pricing many of them out. That's why this is a program that will directly address that, to increase that bilingual capacity in our school system so that we can teach every single child, no matter when they got here,
But
the public education
Mr.
they
Mamdani,
deserve.
this certification has been offered and it hasn't been successful. So how can you make more teachers to be, like they want to do this?
Part of what I've heard is that the tuition costs as part of the same certification exams are onerous for many of these adults looking to switch careers. That's why this program is built upon providing $12,000 in tuition assistance that would lead to 1,000 more teachers every year.
And also salaries will be a good.
We have not just migrant children, we have the children of the homeless, over 120,000. We haven't yet discussed charter schools, parochial schools that are closing. Normally, parochial schools would have been able to take some of these children. We need to expand the number of charter schools that are doing an amazing job, especially in the inner cities. And why not make that available to migrant children and to the homeless children who are coming from shelters all across the city who need the special teaching skills that have lifted children in the charter schools? We need to give choice because that's our most precious resource, our children.
So allow me to now move on into the sanctuary.
I agree on the charter schools.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. So allow me now to enter into the sanctuary city situation, and let's talk about also undocumented immigrants. 26 Federal Plaza has become a flagship in federal immigration crackdown. We reported that asylum seekers are showing up for like those routine appointments, not facing any criminal challenges, and they end up being deported. So by the show of hands, we would like to know if you believe that any of you could do something to stop this.
Okay.
So Mr. Cuomo, you have a minute to explain us, what would you do?
The law is the law, and I would have an attorney assigned to every person who is undergoing any review by the federal government or any legal proceeding, and put the full weight of the city government behind it, and make sure they are legally protected.
Mr. Sliwa, what's your plan?
Look, going after the criminals, that's the job of Immigration and Naturalization Service, ICE. But when they have to perform under a quota, because I speak to many of the men and women who serve this country, it's putting too much pressure to go outside of courthouses, to go Home Depot shape-ups, or in the backs of restaurants and hospitality businesses, which have hired these migrants, and they are essential workers now. I can tell you, I have 3 sons. None of them are going to do that work. Some Americans will, but most won't. We need to protect the migrants who are workers, who are essential workers, and use ICE to go after the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the sexual predators, and those who are sex trafficking and involved in narco-terrorism.
Mr. Mamdani.
You know, I'd be proud to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations. And it's at 26 Federal Plaza that I've seen what used to be moments when New Yorkers would be getting their citizenship turn into moments of tragedy, where judges are asking New Yorkers who are there for a routine immigration check-in whether they're prepared to leave in the very same clothes that they arrived to that courthouse. I agree that we need more legal representation. I also think we need to actually be able to stand up to Donald Trump, because I heard from pastor in East Flatbush, Pastor Galbraith, who told me how he accompanied a member of his congregation to 26 Federal Plaza. He sat there as a judge was determining her fate. They managed to convince the judge to replace the deportation order with a TPS order, but they knew that ICE would not care about that change, and they had to sprint her out of the building, smuggling her into the elevator in order to get her back to Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Candidates want to talk about New York City's economy and change the pace a little bit. Everyone supports growing New York City's economy. The mayor is our chief salesman to the business world. So we want to mix it up, test your persuasive power. So we're calling it an elevator pitch. And we'll start with you, Mr. Mamdani. In this scenario, imagine you're talking to the CEO of a big tech company deciding to move its headquarters to New York City or to Dallas. The CEO is concerned New York just raised its corporate taxes and employees will pay more for everything. Look into the camera and make your pitch to that CEO to come here and not there. Do it in 30 seconds.
New York City has something that Dallas or no other city across this country could actually offer. And that is the quality of life. That is the arts and the culture. That is the people that make the city so special. And I, as the mayor of this city, will deliver that quality of life, will deliver the safety that is the cornerstone of an affordability agenda, and will ensure that companies choose to come to this city and also choose to stay in this city. Because so much of what drives the tech sector is a hunger for innovation, a unrepenting desire to actually innovate, and those are the very things that are going to characterize my city government in this.
But what do you say to the CEO about the corporate taxes and also the staggering costs for the workers?
We are going to make this city more affordable so that workers who want to work at those companies can actually be able to do so. And we're going to ensure that this city continues to be one where we see businesses opening and also staying open.
All right, thank you. Sally?
Mr. Cuomo, something of a reverse scenario for you. The CEO of a similar company with 1,000 good jobs tells you she's very close to moving her headquarters out of New York City. She cites everything from taxes to the crushing cost of living for her employees in New York City. How do you convince that CEO to stay? Please look into the camera and make your elevator pitch. You have 30 seconds.
We know that the other companies in New York City.
Cuomo.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Andrew.
The question is to me in this camera?
Yes, the question is how you would convince the CEO of a company with 1,000 good jobs who's looking to move out of New York City because of the high cost of living for her employees and taxes, how you would convince her to stay in New York City.
In 15 seconds?
30.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. I get it. I understand your frustration. I understand that the far left has been raising taxes and making businesses feel like the enemy. We get it. That's gone. The DSA, the socialist orientation, we're not socialists. It didn't work in Venezuela, didn't work in Cuba, didn't work here. We know that we have to work with business. We want to be your partner. We want to have taxes that help us grow our city, but are competitive for you.
We're at time.
And we want to partner to grow your business and our city together.
Thank you.
Mr. Sliwa, let's talk about business, because let's assume the big tech company that we pitched to Mr. Mamdani earlier has decided to move to New York, and it's 1,000 good paying jobs, and the CEO wants to be based in Astoria, Queens. But there's a loud pushback of residents who don't want the noise and the traffic. How can you convince the residents to accept the new neighbor? You're speaking to a very powerful community. How can you convince them?
But we saw that with Amazon. Amazon wanted to come in, and AOC led the charge and local elected officials to say no to Amazon. That was a big mistake. I would say this. Our companies are being recruited away by the day. We have young people who are going to school here who could fill their needs in these high-tech industries who also are being lured away. We need to cut their income taxes for 5 years. Tell them if you go to school here, graduate here, no income taxes for 5 years. It's an income tax holiday. And the most important thing, we have to be able to assure the executives that this will be a city where we don't lock up toothpaste any longer, but lock up the criminals who make it intolerable to have a good quality of life.
Thank you.
We need to move on to a subject that
was
is.
the Democratic Socialists of America that stopped Amazon and cost us 25,000 jobs. So
Thank
it's
you,
real
Mr.
life.
Cuomo. We need to move on to a crisis that is very important to a lot of voters, and that is people struggling with mental health problems. Roughly 500 times a day, someone calls 911 about an emotionally disturbed person. And in a limited number of those cases, when the person is not believed to be violent, social workers are dispatched instead of police. Mr. Mamdani, you want to do that on a much larger scale. So we want to know, how will this work? When will you send police versus social workers? You have 1 minute.
You know, we have a program here in New York City called Be Heard that is attempting to do this kind of work. But we've had a mayor who has ensured that it's been unsuccessful, to the extent that even when there was an assessment of about 60% of calls that could have been addressed by Be Heard instead of the NYPD, Be Heard was not actually responsive to it. And that's because we haven't had the political will to deliver on what is a crisis that affects so many New Yorkers, which is the mental health crisis. What my plan will do, an innovative plan of the Department of Community Safety, will take what has worked elsewhere in the country, a program in Eugene, Oregon, where they took 24,000 911 mental health calls out of the police department, they were able to respond to all but 311 without police assistance. When there is a concern for safety or of violence, absolutely, you would have the police there. But what we are doing today is actually ensuring that every single call is going to the police and not allowing them to do the work that they signed up to do.
How will you determine whether there is a concern for safety or violence? What is the line between the calls in which police will be dispatched and the calls to which social workers will be dispatched?
The line is also going to be one focused on violence and the threat of violence. And I also trust the operators who will be receiving those calls to make that determination, as they do every day today for so many emergency services.
And just two really quick points, please. There has been a lot of discussion that you would send social workers to domestic violence calls, which police are concerned about. So you're saying no, okay. And then the other question is, how can you be sure that a situation that does not sound violent when someone calls 911 does not become violent in the moment? Would police be assigned as backup?
I think what you do is you actually follow the experts that have shown us this can work when you're willing to ensure that you're trusting the mental health experts who have been doing this work elsewhere in the country, where they call for the police when they need the police, but their initial impulse when there's no violence in that call is to actually address the mental health at the heart of it.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa, you have encountered plenty of these types of situations in your decades of work with the Guardian Angels. So do you see this approach working? You're not a police officer, but you've helped out in situations.
Zoran, boy, another fantasy that's not reality. Eugene, Oregon. Have you ever been to Eugene? I've been to Eugene. Come on, this is New York City. We have so many emotionally disturbed persons that are in need of help. I will tell you this, Andrew, you closed the mental health beds that were taking care of them. 40,000 when you came into office, down to 4,000 because of your cuts, which forced these people to live in the streets, in the parks, and the subways. These people need to be removed. They need mental health care. We need to make our shelters safe. I've been in 1/3 of the 300 shelters run by the Department of Homeless Services. It's Darwinian there, survival of the fittest. If we can make our shelter system safe, we can get men and women who are homeless in there, especially veterans who we're not giving any attention to, who we put out in Ward's Island at 10 o'clock at night, released during the day, don't give any training, have them roam about, and obviously, when you have nothing to do, you end up getting into trouble.
Okay.
This is a disastrous, homeless, and emotionally disturbed plan that we have in New York City. And I'm the mayor that can change it because I deal with them every day in the streets, in the parks, and the subways.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo, do you think that the NYPD handles these calls for emotionally disturbed people in distress well? Is there room for something in the middle?
Yeah, I think the Assemblyman deals in theory. There's an advantage when you actually have experience. I've run homeless programs. I ran the homeless programs for the federal government. I worked with cities all across the nation. When you get a call on a telephone about a mentally ill person who may be violent, it is a very dangerous situation. And I think you should have a mental health worker accompanied with a police officer, because these can be explosive situations. I have been in situations that seemed apparently calm and fine and then erupted into violence very quickly, and it got very dangerous very quickly. So I would have a social worker with a police officer and get the people off the streets. That's the humane thing, and get them the care they need, not institutionalize 40,000 people again. We have supportive housing now, which is what we use, and forensic beds for people who need them.
Now, let me get this straight. A police officer is there first. He has to wait for the arrival of a mental health care worker.
No, I would send them as a team.
As a team. But that's not realistic. You're dealing with fantasy also.
All right.
The police officers are going to be the first one on the scene, and they're always going to have to deal with it first and foremost.
Mr. Cuomo says that he has experience running homeless programs. What he has experience doing is cutting funding for the very programs that prevented homelessness here in New York City. As the governor, he cut funding for the Advantage program, which was putting New Yorkers who had otherwise been in shelters, otherwise been homeless, into apartments. I met one of those New Yorkers.
Mr. Cuomo,
she told me how that pushed her out.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Brief response, Mr.
He's
Cuomo.
talking about a program 14 years ago that was a pilot program that had a work requirement. It was very controversial. It was $65 million.
You're talking about Advantage, just so we know
The
what you're
Advantage
talking
program.
about? Okay.
It was 14 years ago, 65 million. I added billions to the homeless budget. Funded the homeless budget larger than any governor in history.
Okay.
He
okay,
cut
thank
that
you. We want to talk
program.
about.
He
all right.
cut that
Mr.
program.
Mamdani, we have
Homelessness
aired this-
skyrocketed
Mr.
after doing it.
Mamdani,
It
we
did
have
not.
aired
It
this
was 14 years ago.
All right.
It was during the Bloomberg administration. And yes, okay.
Okay. I want to ask you about climate change. As New York City confronts the impact of climate change, one issue already on the desk of the next mayor is Local Law 97. Passed in 2019, the law requires large buildings to gradually reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. That may require very expensive upgrades to buildings, which some landlords and co-op owners say they just simply can't afford. We're wondering how each of you would enforce the law. You have 30 seconds. Mr. Cuomo.
Local Law 97, I support. Implementing the law is going to be the key because it has to be done in a way that isn't so disruptive to businesses and residences that they just give up and pay the fine and don't even try to comply, which is what is going to happen now. It will be cheaper for them to pay the fine than comply. And that obviously will accomplish nothing. So, yes, I support the law. Yes, we have to implement it, but we have to implement it in a way that is feasible.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Sliwa?
Local 97 will destroy those people who have invested in co-ops and condos. There's 100,000. It's forcing them to electrify. Now, you, Andrew Cuomo, took Indian Point offline, 25% of our electrical capacity with no replacement, which has caused skyrocketing electricity bills. And now we're going to force condo and co-op owners to electrify. Maintenance fees will go up 30%. These people will be leaving their condos and co-ops. They need relief. When I'm mayor, I slow that process down. We need our co-op owners and condo owners to stay here in New York City and not flee.
Indian Point? Yeah. Indian Point was started before me. It was a very dangerous situation. We have nuclear facilities upstate, and my proposal and what I did is run cables from the nuclear facilities upstate to bring the power to downstate. Indian Point had 20 million people in the kill zone.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Mamdani, Local Law 97, how would you enforce the law as mayor?
I support the law, and I would also make it easier for condo and co-op owners to comply with the law, because what I've heard from so many is that it's cheaper to pay the fine than to actually get into compliance. And I think the city has a role here in procurement at a large scale of so much of what is necessary in these infrastructure investments. We've seen it be done in the Clean Energy Challenge within NYCHA. It's time to do it right here in New York City to assist those condo and co-op owners in meeting the standards we desperately need to hit.
Okay, gentlemen, New York City loves its parades, and the mayor is often front and center. You have all said that you want to be mayor for all New Yorkers. So will you march in all the parades that mayors have traditionally marched in, or are there any that you would boycott? Mr. Sliwa?
I think a mayor has a responsibility, whenever possible, to march in parades, to celebrate whatever that parade is performing as. I've been a Grand Marshal of the Pulaski Day Parade. I was proud to celebrate my Polish heritage.
Are there any that you would boycott, though? I just need to move this along.
Excuse me?
Would you boycott any of the city's parades?
No, I would not boycott any parades.
Mr.
It's the mayor's
Cuomo, would you
responsibility to be available to all racial, ethnic, and religious groups.
No, I wouldn't unless they discriminated.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani?
There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Which parades?
A number of them. I've already missed a number of those parades because I've been trying to speak to as many New Yorkers as possible.
Okay.
I don't have the list of all the parades I've missed.
Wow, that's a
All
lot.
right.
The mayor should be going to all parades.
Let me ask you this. Are there any parades that don't exist that you think should? Mr. Mamdani?
I haven't thought much about parades, to be honest with you.
Mr. Cuomo?
I have not thought. I don't even know what parade doesn't exist, frankly.
Could be for anything. Mr. Sliwa?
Every parade has the right to exist in New York City. I would ask
David? Thank you.
Mr. Mamdani, would you protect the Christopher Columbus statues that exist here in the city?
I'm telling you, my focus is on affordability. I'm not thinking about
statues. Well, you're not answering the question.
Yeah,
thank you.
They're not answering the question.
He gave the finger to the Columbus Day statue.
That issue's come up.
That's what we call it, disgraziado.
Listen, we're in the last couple of minutes, and we thought we'd have some questions. We thought we'd have some questions that maybe give a glimpse into your life, your personality, away from the political podium. What's your go-to breakfast order at the bodega? Mr. Sliwa?
Oh, eggs and cheese on a roll. No salt, please.
Mr. Cuomo,
Same thing, no salt also.
Mr. Mamdani.
Egg and cheese on a roll with jalapenos.
No.
Have you ever purchased anything in a cannabis shop? And if so, what did you buy? Mr. Mamdani?
I have. I have purchased marijuana at a legal cannabis shop.
Okay. Mr. Cuomo?
No.
Mr. Sliwa?
When I was shot 5 times, I've had Crohn's disease. I did use medical marijuana. Yes.
Okay. In a dream scenario, we know it's not possible, but the Mets are playing Game 7 of the World Series on the same night as the Knicks are playing Game 7 of the NBA Championship, and you can only go to one. Which one will it be, Mr. Sliwa?
Again, which baseball team?
This is the Mets, Game 7, Knicks, Game 7.
I'm not going to the Mets game. I'm a Yankee fan. True baseball fans either like one or the other. I'm going to the Knicks game. That's my team, the Knicks.
Mr. Cuomo?
I'm going to go half and half. I can make it back and forth.
All right. And Mr. Mamdani?
This is what New Yorkers are sick of. Just pick a team.
What's
Come on.
your answer?
I'd be there for the Knicks.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of ground covered. We'll leave it on that light note. Thank you, candidates.